Tuvalu, and welcome. I'm still, right, if you don't know this, for like the past 2 seasons of Star Trek, I've still wanted to open with Good Morning to Star Trek Picard Season 3. It's been a long time. And welcome to, almost said Star Trek, Doctor Who, the 60th anniversaries, the Giggle. Hello, Federal Express man. Yes, welcome to what is almost certainly going to be the longest video, but also just longest live stream on the channel. Probably until at least Shooty Gadwater generates. A lot to talk about here. Very long episode, not the longest. I think Power the Doctor is still probably the longest. Ooh, I forgot to start recording. There we go. Hello, video audience. Always missing out on my intros. But yes, this, we're back. I mean, specifically, I think Russell T Davies is back. The first episode, The Star Beast, was a little shaky. I mean, it was fine, but not, like, anything great. Both these last two have been really good. I'm very happy about this episode. If I have any complaints that aren't, like, extraordinarily meta, it's that the toy maker didn't actually drop the ball because it hadn't hit the floor yet because it fell off a building, and we'd established that the guards had taken a long time to fall off the building, and there we go. Now we are probably done with the complaints for the episode. There we go. It's a nitpick, but it bugs me. Oh god, longest video if my throat can keep up. Sorry, I have no idea why it's been struggling with the live streams recently. Anyway, Federal Expressman, I find it funny how there are 2 copies of the 10th Doctor coexisting within the Whoniverse now. The 10th Doctor? Oh, yes! Is it still the Whoniverse if it's another universe? Yeah, the 10th Doctor gets around. Is he the most copied Doctor now? Because the Curator is kind of like a second, 4th Doctor. He probably is. Although it's not saying much. I think everyone's probably going to want to go straight off on this whole bi-regeneration. There's now 2 Doctor things. So this is where we're going to start. And then we're going to kind of go back and talk about the episode as a whole. The multi-Whoniverse. Well, multiverse is like universe, but without the U. And Whoniverse is universe, but without the U. So it's odd, but yeah. I said last time that this could possibly be the worst thing that could ever happen to Doctor Who, though it'd probably be just a little bit derivative. It doesn't feel derivative at that. And it wasn't even, I don't think, particularly a negative thing to happen to Doctor Who. I'm going to start with what I think personally, and I'm going to talk a lot more meta. So I think there's some really interesting meta things with a new generation that Russell T Davies is trying to do here, both good and bad. But yeah. Federal Expressman, speaking of the Curator, alright, let's take a tangent. What are the chances 14 will eventually become the Curator while the other line of doctors aren't actually retiring? Yeah, that's what I kind of thought we were going with, is an implication that the 14th Doctor becomes the Curator. Because I think I mentioned last time, the leak, which I can finally talk about freely, don't worry, I won't say anything about the Christmas special, because that leak also did some things there, was that the 14th Doctor was going to retire, and so I was like, well, he could become the Curator, who I now am also going to choose to believe is cheekily popping off for, like, an adventure every now and then in the TARDIS. But yeah, that's kind of like a little headcanon I like. And I also wouldn't be surprised if this comes back at some point, whether it's Tennant or someone else is like the other Doctor. The Doctor, yeah, he's the one who said they would revisit old faces. I like this. This works for me for a few reasons. First off, we are absolutely, categorically, unquestionably still following the Doctor. This man is as much the Doctor as this man. Like, these are both the exact same person until about 10 seconds ago in the video. Which is good. I said that was very important to me, that Doctor Who still follows the Doctor. It was a bit weird when David Tennant was kind of describing how the console was laid out, which the 15, I'm going to call him 1415 when I'm referring to them specifically, or like Tenant Gadwa, and just the Doctor more generically. Or, it points before the biogeneration. But I could also just very clearly see that's something 14 is doing to, like, avoid talking about the situation, which is something David Tennant's Doctor loves doing. Well, his doctors? Is it plural or singular? Because it's technically the same man. Oh, God. Welcome to the pronoun game with this episode. This whole next, 4 hours. Yeah, that's important to me. I also said last time, I predicted that the biggest problem I would have with this plot point, come on, give me the thumbnail, is that the Doctor was basically going to make a new TARDIS. I thought 15 was actually going to take a new one. Not that it really matters. I like how they did it because it's still kind of the same TARDIS. It feels a little weird to me. Like, a lot of this just feels a little weird, and honestly, I think a lot of my trepidation towards the idea comes from the knowledge that it was going to happen, and kind of the fear from there. I want to be perfectly clear, I think this works perfectly fine. But it's also seems a bit hypocritical to say that we're absolutely categorically following the Doctor if this is the Doctor, but to say that this isn't absolutely categorically the exact same TARDIS as this. It was the same thing. And it wasn't just the new one. It wasn't even we created a new one out of thin air. We literally split the TARDIS, essentially magically. So that was also just a good way to do it. And I like that the underlying fear was that it kind of showed the Doctor didn't care too much about the TARDIS. But, that's the reason they split it, is the Doctor was like, I cannot leave the TARDIS. That would hurt too much. Not like I'd be stranded. The TARDIS is my friend, and that would hurt too much. And one sec, so I appear to be peaking a little bit. Ah, yes, my gain setting was up just a little too high on the mic. So I think the biogeneration went very well. As I kind of alluded to, I think they set up a believable that the Doctor we'll call it retiring, acknowledging that he is, he's still going on trips. Like, he's retiring in this is what the Doctor would think retiring is. Like, it's very in character. That's, I think, what makes it so well done. Yep, neither of them are fake. They're both real. They just sort of split off like worms. Yep. The show explained it very well. This ties back to what Donna said with the Metacrisis Doctor got created. She assumed Time Lords split off like worms. I'm actually going to go a little meta here, which a big complaint about Russell T Davies, what he did with the 10th Doctor's regeneration, it is as a very clean jumping off point. David Tennant was extremely popular. The 10th Doctor was popular, and it's partially it grew under Matt Smith, but it's part of what made Doctor Who global was David Tennant. It's like his Doctor, and there were a lot of people who got attached to that. And with the general audience specifically, a lot of people could be pushed off the regeneration. In the Doctor Who world, we're more kind of used to it. But if you aren't following the narrative, you're just casually watching, and suddenly a new guy's the Doctor, a new companion, a new everything, you might not gel with it. And Russell T Davies essentially, but unintentionally, I'm sure, basically gave the 11th Doctor, stacked the entire deck against him. We spent the entire episode of End of Time establishing that regeneration is a death. Like, the Doctor considers that he is about to die and a totally new person is going to walk off. Thank you for saying the opposite here, where he's just, mid-regeneration, he's like, it's not death. First off, new companion, new showrunner, that's pretty bad, but not really Davies' fault. We ended with essentially the goodbye swan song of visiting all the former companions. I don't want to go. Is the last line. He's tearing up. It is very much treated like a death, and that could put a lot of people off. I'm responding to a comment. Because I have a lot of points about this. What's the main point? Yeah, I mean, but instead we have the 15th Doctor constantly referencing, like, I loved her too. I loved Rose. I loved River. Very clearly establishing, basically from the get-go, that he has all of the memories and experiences of the last Doctor. And we're probably going to come back to the meta, because this is a big discussion that's kind of different from my personal feelings. But yeah. Yeah, you love how 14 is basically if 10 never regenerated and got loads of character development, so he's become to understand that regeneration isn't dying, but a new start. Yes, exactly what I wanted him to be. I think he potentially could have been a little more different from 10, but I've said it should feel exactly like the 10th Doctor, but with all the knowledge and experience of 11, 12, and 13. And I think they did that very well. Especially considering the anniversary sense nature of it, in that this is, whether the intention or not, going to be pulling back a lot of that casual audience that left with 10 and 11. I recognize that, like, yeah, this was probably the perfect balance. Look at this. I'm sorry, just look at this cheeky Doctor smile right there. What's he leaning on, though? Did they cut something out of frame there? Oh my god. Well, we'll never get that frame back. Oh well. Yeah, no, that was well done. Personally, I didn't get too much of a feel of the 15th Doctor himself. I'm really just going to need to see him in an episode. So I'm not going to talk too much about him. I love that he's the kind of Doctor who will do his entire, like... I mean, heck, is that basically an episode? I don't know, 25 minutes. That's basically a classic episode. He'll do his entire first half of a story in his underwear, and he will never do anything to attempt to change that. It will never be addressed, and no one around him will address it whatsoever. I love that about him. But yeah, no, I didn't get too much of a feel for what he'd be like, because there was still kind of that very split between 10 and 14 and 15. And like the scenes he was in was great, don't get me wrong. I just don't feel I know him too well. I am excited to see what he does in, like, what, 2 weeks? But yeah, no, I just think the concept worked really well. I liked seeing the 14th Doctor here, just, like, having a good time. It felt weird that Wilf was shooting gophers, is, like, the man who never killed someone in the war, and was... I don't know if proud's the right word about that, but he certainly wasn't ashamed of it. But if you don't know... I learned after I did my last live stream. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he doesn't, but Federal Expressman, I would genuinely love it if he spends the entire Christmas episode in his underwear. Like, mwah. But, where was I? Yeah, if you don't know, Bernard, God, I should have looked him up. Cribbings? Wilf. We'll call him Wilf. Yeah, they wanted to film more scenes. I think you can see where they'd go. It's the scenes where, like, they had to kind of work around him not being there. But his health just wouldn't allow it. That scene from the end of the last episode was all they could get before he just became too sick to work, which is a real shame. Like, I can recognize at the beginning where they're kind of not showing him. It's clearly some stand-in in the wheelchair. And they use the line from, I think the Santaran stratagem, because I'm a massive nerd, where he's like, go on, Godana, go with the Doctor. But, you know, I mean, I like that they worked around it the way they did, rather than just saying, screw it, we'll have to scrap everything, because we can't get him back. And, you know, at least they acknowledge that, like, hey, you know, they didn't just ignore him either. They said, make sure he's safe. And then, make sure, and then, like, they addressed why he's not at the table. Sorry, that pause there. Why wasn't he affected by the giggle, was my thought. Is that just a plot hole? Or am I forgetting? Federal Expressman, did they address why, like, Mel and Donna and Wilf weren't affected? Are we just to assume that, like, they never used a screen? Or they're somehow kind of inherently above that? Because I've either forgotten, missed it, or that's just a small plot hole, which would be unfortunate. Especially because, like, you don't need Mel. I don't think it ever came up that Mel was immune. So you could have just went with, like, left it ambiguous, but said, oh, yeah, the Donna and Doctor aren't affected because TARDIS. Wilf's not affected. I swear he was in the TARDIS once. Was Wilf ever in the TARDIS? God, now I'm gonna... Doctor Who... Nathan, it's Mel. Mel was also in the TARDIS. Dang it, Nathan. Oh yeah, Wilf was in the TARDIS. There we go. What happened to Disney Plus? Disney Plus? Okay, it's back. Yeah, thank you. Owen, welcome. You're right. For some reason, I forgot Mel had traveled in the TARDIS. I have seen Classic Who, I promise. I've even seen The Toy Maker. By the way, this episode leagues above the classic Toy Maker story, which, I mean, to be fair, it was never really well regarded, but I think the sort of things we could do now really supports the story. And I don't just mean VFX. Like, actually, as much as I praised last week's VFX, this week's felt rather weak in, like, basically every spot they were in. And actually, I'm looking for the bit with the puppet. This was kind of took me out of it a little bit. But I'm really honestly struck by the quality of the practical effects. I learned those arms. You know the big arms in the last episode? That was practical effects. The, like, my arms are too long scenes. And that's practical effects. Like, no wonder I thought it was amazing CGI. It wasn't even CGI. The goblins, from, like, the promo image, oh my god. Like, these are amazing. I am blown away by the practical effects. Well, it's the makeup department, but the things that we're pulling off with this Disney budget, to the point where I'm like, you don't need any of this CGI. Like, it just... The practical effects department are knocking it out of the park. Yeah, this is me, in my underwear and everything, just being blown away by the practical effects. Oh, and I like that Tennant got to stay, but do you think it's in case no one likes the 15th? Are they doing a spin-off of Tennant? I'm gonna say no and no. A main show with two doctors, like two main shows that follow the Doctor, I don't think work. A lot of people have said the same about the possibility of bringing the 8th Doctor back for his own spin-off. I think there kind of has to be one Doctor Who. But you've almost kind of addressed, like... I'm now going to get to the meta side of the bi-regeneration, because as much as I was praising before, I think Russell T. Davies did a great job learning from the mistakes of last time he left with Tennant, trying to give the 15 a much better chance, especially because part of the point of these specials, I think, is to, even if it wasn't originally the intent, was to rope in, like, we've got that whole everyone who left with David Tennant, maybe even Matt Smith, back. Let's try and maintain them now for the 15th Doctor. You have bits, basically, as soon as the 15th Doctor appears, they both do, like, the ball game, which is, kind of the Doctor-esque skill. But all the kind of technical lines and solutions get put on the 15th Doctor. He's the one who explains bi-generation. He's the one who realizes you can kind of duplicate the TARDIS. He almost kind of starts taking charge, which is good. You're almost kind of validating him next to Tennant. Well, before, it's a hard cutoff. David Tennant was the Doctor, now it's Matt Smith. That can be very jarring, because... it's suddenly a new person. But this gives us a little bit of leeway to kind of get used to Ncuti or know him a bit before we leave because David Tennant's gone, is a more, casual audience. I stuck through Jodie, god damn it, I'm not gonna leave because David Tennant isn't the Doctor anymore. Yeah, as much as I said, I don't think we got to see too much of Ncuti Gatwa. Not enough to at least get attached to him, enough to be like, oh yeah, this guy's the Doctor now, no, full on. To me, Ncuti Gatwa, let me finish this thought, please. Ncuti Gatwa is not the Doctor in the same way that Matt Smith was not the Doctor after 2 lines and 30 seconds in The End of Time. We needed the 11th hour before we all went, yes, this is the Doctor, I see it now, I've accepted, I'm used to it. I just feel like, Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor, just look at him. There we go. He's the Doctor. That is categorically true. But, I need to kind of see him. I need an 11th hour. I need to see him and Ruby just messing around with goblins. Get that dynamic. Because I can see a bit of that dynamic that they're going for. I read Ruby's actress said her and the Doctor are rather, clicky. And I can see it. I see what they're going for. I see the charisma. This man, by God, did a whole episode in his underwear, and it just worked. This Doctor could, if he never put on pants, and it was just, it would never be brought up. That's the kind of man he is. I like that. But I need to see him in action now. And I need to really get my hands on that personality. And so I think there still might be a good number of people who, drop off. We might not have done as good a job of catching that casual crowd as we might have liked. But I like that we at least get that opportunity. It's not a hard cut, and I like the structure. I'm really honestly curious to see. I think how well this concept was executed is genuinely a question of time. We need to see, is the 15th Doctor really the, global success it could be again, now that it's on Disney+, now that we've kind of hooked this audience? Or did we get maybe a peak and we're now going to falter back to, yeah, it's big in the UK, it's successful, but it's not the 20, oh God, not 20 years ago, 15 years ago, kind of 10th, 11th Doctor, big, And so, yeah, I'm also a little worried that, the Byra generation is actually going to actively detract. I don't think we should have had the 15th Doctor. By the way, look, just the little jukebox, so much better. The lighting, that pure white, yeah, the TARDIS is now home now. This is a top-tier TARDIS, well done. But I don't think we should have had the 15th Doctor leave, and then we continue with the 14th. I get narratively it might have been difficult to work around, but I feel it kind of gives the impression, because these people are both the Doctor, just they are, that the 14th Doctor is the main Doctor because he's the one we followed once they split apart. And, this is the reason why we end with the 15th Doctor. Is so as the audience, we're supposed to be following 15. But I got the sense more near the end that the audience is supposed to be following 14 because that's where we went when 15 left. And it'd be a lot better if the Christmas special was live now and you could just go straight in and watch it. But I could see this again being a natural dropping off point where people go, okay, David Tennant, the Doctor, is retired now, and I can stop watching Doctor Who. I feel there could... It wasn't as much of a let's continue as I think it could have been for the casual crowd. And, we'll just have to see how things go, I guess. I think if the 15th Doctor is popular enough in its own right, he'll grow to that global popularity. The 10th Doctor was ages ago, and the 10th Doctor and 11th Doctor got globally big because 9 and early 10 were so good. We actually brought in that casual audience, And I don't think Doctor Who needs to be a global, phenomenon, But I think it's good if it is. Like, if Doctor Who's successful, they're going to keep making it kind of thing, you know? We're going to keep getting the budget for these amazing practical effects, you know? Yeah, so 14, I don't think we're ever going to mention him again for a while. Like, I'd be surprised if the idea of another Doctor floating around never comes up in TV. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the end of maybe the first season, but even like 15 in general. What I actually might be interested in is, I don't know, like if David Tennant regenerates again and there's another 15th Doctor, does that undermine that he's kind of retired with Donna and all these people? Like, I don't know. That feels a bit weird. I mean, I guess if we're saying he's the creator, there we go. We've already got a plot line. But, yeah, I don't know. You've also potentially got the possibility to say, not that anyone cares the actors are older, but the Doctor's regenerations are set. So what I mean by that is, well, let's use an example. You know, in the real world, in the show, Tom Baker became Peter Davison, became Colin Baker, right? Is that random? Or was Tom Baker always going to become Peter Davison? You know, if he had died at any other point in any other story, would the Fifth Doctor always have been Peter Davison? And there's a Big Finish audio drama, The War Doctor, where basically in Genesis of the Daleks, the Doctor does touch the two wires. It starts the Time War early, and the Fourth Doctor regenerates into Colin Baker. So the Fifth Doctor is what, in the actual show, is the Sixth Doctor. That's an example where it's kind of random, you know? But I think a lot of media has kind of gone with the regenerations are set. So if David Tennant, the 14th Doctor, were ever to regenerate again, he would become a new 15th Doctor who is also Ncuti Gatwa. What I'm getting at here is we have another kind of explanation to potentially say, okay, Paul McGann can't convincingly play the 8th Doctor anymore. Well, I mean, that's a bit of a bad example, because he was older when he regenerated. Colin Baker doesn't look like he did when the 6th Doctor regenerated. He's aged. I think, as he put it, he got old and fat. Colin Baker's a bad example. My point is that in 40 years, we could bring Ncuti Gatwa back is like, how old is he? A 60, 70, 80-year-old man. And explain he's older because, he's actually after this Doctor. It'd be a little weird, but, it's something on the table. I do say, though, one thing I don't like about the bi-regeneration is it does feel like we're kind of leaving behind the Doctor, because we are. Like, yes, if we are categorically following... oh, God. Where's my timeline? Disney Plus. Just, all I wanted was a frame of Ncuti Gatwa. Come on. Oh my God. And now I can't pause. Okay, okay, Disney Plus is broken. If we are following the 15th Doctor, and the 15th Doctor is absolutely categorically 1 through 14, then it is also true that the 14th Doctor is still absolutely categorically the Doctor. And we're leaving him behind, Like, if we are following the Doctor, we are also leaving the Doctor behind, and it feels kind of weird that he's going to be going on a whole new kind of string of adventures, as sporadic as they may be, that we're not a part of. It's a little better if you say he's the creator, and say, okay, his adventures are by and large just creating the museum. We have seen that before. We've seen him as Tom Baker. I also kind of like the depth when the curator tells Matt Smith, like, you've kind of got so much more to do, the things you're going to do. I kind of like the cheeky implication now that the curator is David Tennant's 14th Doctor, just going on and regenerating and revisiting old faces, but kind of watching what Ncuti Gatwa and that regeneration line is up to. I think that's fun. Excuse me, because Disney Plus is absolutely borked, and I'm having to get back to the special again. Doctor Who, Special 3, play, technology. Oh my god. Disney, give me a time bar. Thank you, there we go. There we go. Okay, is it... I think it's working. It's just buffering a little bit now. So yeah, I mean, how well was the bioregeneration thing executed? Ultimately, I think that is a question that we can't answer until we see what the series goes on to do. And I mean more meta, like how successful does it get? Do we do anything more with this second regeneration of the Doctor? Personally, I think it works. It like, absolute worst, I have no feelings towards it, and I'm gonna happily follow the Doctor. Which is pretty good, you know? But yeah, I think it was satisfying seeing kind of this Doctor settle down. I mean, God, Disney Plus is just gonna give me a hard time from now on. The puppet scene where we've had it referenced before, you know, in Wild Blue Laundry, they brought up Flux, they brought up some other things. But truly, the amount that's happened, oh my god, since the 10th Doctor is mind-boggling. Like, when he was doing the puppet show of all the companions, like, after Donna, it's mind-boggling. I was like, yeah, we're not skipping any. Well, we skipped Rory, but, you know, that's Rory. Amy, Clara, Bill. We technically skipped over the 13 Doctor's companions, but we mentioned Flux. Like, yeah, a lot's happened to this guy. And if anything, I think they justified, like, what happened to the 14th Doctor. If there's a critique, it's, I don't fully understand why the 15th Doctor is able to just kind of keep going on the adventures. If it's the regeneration that this Doctor can just kind of live, he can move on, then why is the 14th Doctor haunted by the events of the 13th, 12th, and 11th? If the regeneration's supposed to basically make him feel better. I didn't... That was kind of lost on me, and I'm happy to accept that this Doctor can just kind of move on past it, but it feels weird in that case why the 14th Doctor would be affected anyway. It kind of feels like it's trying to have its cake and eat it too. But I acknowledge that the arc of the 14th Doctor, and heck, arguably just the Doctor since at least Tennant regenerated, if not the reboot, is kind of being satisfied here. Another side note, while we're kind of on the topic, is I was thinking, waiting here before the live stream would start, is it felt kind of odd when they were presenting the first Doctor as the one who, like, had never had a time to sit down and think about what all that was happening to him. A lot of the things they mentioned, the Gods of Ragnarok, you know, that sort of stuff, it was after this point. But I was thinking, what about the third Doctor? Who, if you don't know, which honestly you're watching this live stream, so you probably do, was exiled on Earth for most of his tenure. Surely he settled down. But then I realized, so did William Hartnell. Like, there's an episode where he, Ian, Barbara, and... not Susan. Vicky. Just decide to, like... They land in Rome and decide, screw it, let's just live here for, like, a month. When the first episode starts on Unearthly Child, what the Doctor was doing was just living in 1960s England because Susan wanted to. It felt kind of weird that we had pushed the idea of the man who's always running that far back. I think by Tom Baker, you could certainly say that. Like, it is a very long-running thing about the character. By the way, Disney Plus is still buffering. I need Disney Plus. I need it. Disney. But I think at this point, I'm going to transition into talking about the episode more of a whole and kind of go through the timelines. Go through the episode and kind of discuss it chronologically, which means I really need Disney Plus to start working. Oh, are you not going to actually do that? Give me 1 moment. I'm going to see what my wife is doing, and I might ask them to stop streaming, and I'm going to give me like 2 minutes. Give me less than that. All right, we'll see. Hopefully things will improve with Disney Plus. I might actually pivot a bit. Okay, we've got this timeline down here, so that's what we're gonna work with. And look at that, I lost all my viewers. Come on, I said like just a little bit. Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker, I think was absolutely delightful. Yeah, I loved that performance. I loved the character. I don't usually say much about the performance of an actor, but kind of he was a character in the sense of like all that kind of personality and just the way he was played. No, I absolutely loved that. I think I'm going to give Disney Plus a little bit of a break. I actually kind of want to pivot over. Let's see what the general reaction is. Well, hopefully Disney Plus gives it a chance to sort itself out. And then we'll go back to what we go. And then actually, I've got some bits of Doctor Who news I can talk about a bit. What are people... Yeah, of people praising the scene with the dolls. I saw one comment I liked earlier. What was it? Why can't I generate into having Shooty Gadwa version of me who then addresses my deepest insecurities and gives me a hug? Yeah, Toymaker was exceptional. I mean, unsurprisingly, I think the Reddit loved it. If I had a nickel where the Doctor is played by David Tennant is split into 2 and one goes on to live a domestic life with a companion, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. Yes, it is very the end of time. I'm giving Disney Plus one more chance because I've decided the Reddit comment. Star Trek's Reddit is a lot more interesting. Pause this. Oh, hey, look at that. Look who's decided to start working. Yeah, no. I was talking about the the practical effects for the aliens before. The set work is also just really good. I mean, look at this toy shop. I think the whole thing is great. I love that they got away with kind of burning one of the toy maker's victims to death. Like, they even have the thing where the doll is screaming because this is a person. This is... there we go. Look at... these previews don't do anything for me trying to find a frame. Because it is a person, but they don't... They get away with it because they don't flat out point out that this is a victim and was like a real person. And I think this whole story, just the atmosphere that we're fighting a god, like the things the Toymaker does. It feels much more like a real vision of what the original probably was going for, that just didn't really get like the original. If you've never seen it or watched one of the reconstructions, because it's mostly missing, it doesn't really lean into like how disturbing losing a game and being one of the Toymaker's like playthings is. They kind of just exist and seem to do whatever and don't really care. Like, I never really feel the stakes. Like, there's objectively, the stakes of the story are high. Like, the Doctor and companions might be stranded in this universe without a TARDIS. But I never really get that they seem to care too much about that. But this really kind of felt like the stakes that should be there. I think Big Finish has a Toymaker story or two. I've listened to one with the Fifth Doctor, where again, I think the Toymaker's a concept that's been done a lot better in the extended media. I'd also like to address, it feels so good to have an episode of Doctor Who that addresses kind of real modern day issues without explicitly stating what it's about, and without the Doctor turning to the camera and saying, hey, maybe on the internet, you should just listen. Like, it's that simple. And, oh, thank you, Doctor. I hadn't considered that maybe on the internet I should just listen to people. I thought it was interesting. Like, I could even argue at parts it was a little on the nose, but, like, I think almost necessary. Like, you have in here where the Doctor's like, that all out there, like, thinking that you're always right, like, that's you. This isn't some alien thing making humanity crazy. This is some, like, putting stuff in humanity. This is some alien thing that is just bringing out all of the worst that are already there. So you could argue it was kind of important to maybe get the message a bit more than just say, oh, some alien ray is making us all bad people, like, rather simplistically. Hey, hello, Alex. When I said this, something that maybe doesn't require the internet, I don't think this is quite what I meant, but Disney Plus is behaving again. So, Hess Night Art, that is my wife, who, this is a bad example, but drew the lovely character art, minus the regeneration glow, which is what happens when I look, we didn't have time to draw regeneration. But yes, everybody thank Alex for the 14th Doctor, me as the 14th Doctor stuff. And soon a 15th Doctor thing that I will commission after this. I promise I'll send you the notes. It won't be rushed like last time. But yeah, no, this is the sort of thing I like, where you take the basic premise of the extreme end that people on the internet kind of think they're always right, and go, what if that was actually true? That literally everybody actually always thought that they were right about literally everything. That's interesting. And, yeah, look, Alex, I promise you'll get the commission, okay? Yeah, sorry. I have a bad habit of not giving Alex the instructions for the thumbnails until, like, very last minute. But yeah, no, I like that. It felt, for the first time since, God, a long time, did the 12th Doctor have a story like that? Where I was like, oh yeah, that's an interesting concept derived from a real social issue. And I don't think we really... that being said, I don't know if we necessarily said too much about it. Like, there was nothing about how we might address this. There wasn't too much exploring the issue at hand, but God, was it better than anything similar in 13 Doctors era. Yes, this thumbnail was done in a day. Everybody, thank Alex. It also has the puppies in it, because when I give them a day, I get very little input on what the thumbnail is going to look like. Ooh, I skipped over something main, didn't I? welcome to Avengers Tower. Can I get a frame? Yeah, I think that's unfair. I know a lot of people were like, oh yeah, it's Avengers Tower. But if you really look at it, yes, it's a tall skyscraper with a helipad. That's about it. This just isn't really the shape of Avengers Tower. And, I know, I think it's interesting for UNIT to have a proper big base. It shows an intent that, like, UNIT is gonna be a large enough part of this era. I assume kind of like with Capaldi and even the end of Matt Smith. Matt Smith met Kate. Yeah, she did. He did. And I think we're probably, I'm not unlikely we're getting a UNIT spinoff. Which I wonder if it'll have Mel and Donna, because we kind of set up Donna getting a salary, or a job here, and Mel already does. Which, yeah, speaking of which, I mean, it was good to see Mel. I think she's going to be in the next season, or at least the Christmas special, because I think when she was initially announced, it was with Shooty as part of this season 1, season 14, whatever the hell we want to call it. So I think we're going to see more of her, but we remembered she was a computer programmer. Like, she was capable, she was competent, she was intelligent. We really saw her caring for the Doctor. Like, you do whatever the heck you want, I'm going to be there when the Doctor regenerates. Yeah, I mean, she was probably better than she ever was in the classics. It's Mel. I mean, I know her well. I have an extensive Big Finish collection. So I've spent a lot of time with 7 and Mel, 6 and Mel. But it's good. I think I really got in this episode how we're doing the anniversary. Like, there's no previous Doctors, if we set aside David Tennant for a second, is technically the concurrent Doctor. But I mean, in this episode alone, it was kind of the puppet show thing where it clicked to me. Like, yes, we have Mel. We also Tennant and Donna returning are not nothing, even if they are the current Doctor companion. But we had referenced Amy. Forget Rory, he's probably dead. Well, Amy forgot Rory, so you know. Amy, Clara, Bill, the Flux got brought up. We had River, we had Rose, we had Sarah, we had the Gods of Ragnarok. Heck, the Toy Maker himself. We had Pandora, which is... God, I get confused sometimes with these obscure things. That's not the Pandori... Oh god, what was her name? This is why I can't remember. Imperatrix Pandora. Is that Pandora? Doctor Who... I think it's extended media. Oh yeah, speaking of which, Meep. Not the Pandorica. It is Pandora. I thought so. I don't know if Pandora has another source, but the Big Finish Gallifrey range, which is exceptional, by the way, you should give it a listen. I've only seen the first, like, 4. If you know her, you'll remember her as the reason that Romana regenerated. But yeah, that's not from the show. In fact, let me see. Audio, Pandorica, Imperatrix. Yeah, according to TARDIS Wiki, that is purely a Big Finish story. Which is interesting because I don't think the Doctor ever met Pandora. But, hey, I like that reference. Seriously, the Gallifrey range. The first, like, 4 intros are super cheap, and it's fantastic. It predates Modern Who, so there's a little things. I think it assumes you know some things from the book, like why the hell is Romana the president of Gallifrey? Which if we just canonize that, but yeah, you'd have to with Pandora. Whatever. But yeah, there was a lot. I mean, we had direct references to the 11th, 12th, and 13th Doctors. Is the bow tie, the Scotsman, and the woman. I can't wait for another female Doctor. I almost would have said I've said before, I don't think on stream though, I don't care what the Doctor's sex is, but I probably would have cast the 14th Doctor as a woman because I don't want Jodie Whittaker to be just the woman is how you kind of, her doctor stands out. And it's especially true because she has no character herself. The woman is basically the only thing you can say about her that sets her apart that isn't actively negative. That's just a minor aside. But, yeah, moving on. Anything else in here? I don't mind that Unit was basically sitting around for permission and the doctor was permission enough. Because if you forget, in case you forgot or you dropped out for a while, the doctor is technically the president of Earth in this episode. That was a Capaldi era development, where if the world is ever in serious threat, the doctor becomes the president of Earth. And although the world leaders probably didn't enact that, I bet once they save the day, they would recognize that the Earth was in danger and, like, retroactively say, yes, Unit was justified because the president of Earth said to do something. So I don't mind. I actually would have preferred a direct reference to that because it seems plot relevant. But I like kind of this way of doing the referential. Yes, it would have been nice to have, like, Matt Smith, and let's face it, Matt Smith is the one who would come back. But there wasn't a good place to place him in the story. And actually, you know what would have been funny? Is have Matt Smith come back as the curator. Like, somehow have Dave... So, like, we've come full circle and acknowledge that the 14th Doctor becomes the curator. Yes, that limits the EU potential. Like, oh, don't get me wrong. Big Finish is going to absolutely swallow up the 14th Doctor. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get Rose. I guess it depends how big Yasmin's career gets. But yeah, it really feels like we had a lot of references, but every single one felt like, of course, like, this is just something you would bring up. It didn't take you out of it. I mean, even Donna went through, like, the adipose, the Ood, like, the Daleks, Davros, the reality bomb, like, all the kind of stuff that she experienced, because of course she is, because she's describing how she can take these absolutely crazy things and rationalize them, like, Daleks build bomb. Boom, I can understand that. Adipose are just fat monsters. I can understand that. And I mean, I think it's just a testament to Russell T Davies' writing, even. I assume this was written by Russell T Davies, like all the other ones were. Where's our intro? Which is still clearly missing, like, 6 seconds of music. Yeah, written by Russell T Davies. I liked how they worked the giggle into the name as well. Yeah, this set of 60th anniversaries, it's going to be so good, and I feel on watch-throughs. I won't really watch through the 13th Doctor much, if at all. Probably have never watched through Flux, other than my partner and I. Well, my wife and I, wedding ring, but are going to watch through it. I'm going to feel like looking forward to this is going to be what helps get me through the 13th Doctor if I ever do bigger watch throughs. And heck, eventually I'll probably get to it on the channel. I'm glad I landed on this frame. I loved this, that I think the episode did it long enough you're supposed to catch on, and I caught on it instantly. I adore that Neil Patrick Harris, the toy maker, is juggling 3 balls, and when he throws them, he's still juggling 3 balls, and he keeps doing it, and he keeps just juggling 3 balls. The more he throws them, he just always has 3 balls, and it's never explained. And it's such like, yes, this guy's just a god in control of everything, and it's so subtle, and it's never directly addressed, and I love it. And it is addressed, because, like, the characters, I think the Doctor realizes instantly, but Donna eventually realizes, hang on, he's thrown like 5 balls, and he still has 3 balls. I love that. That's the sort of little things I adore. Feather Express Man, 15 had underwear on, so 14 no longer had underwear underneath his plants. That is the first thing I thought of. Actually, funny enough, when they were separating, it was the waist up. And I actually had the thought, God, I hope the 15th Doctor doesn't have pants, because that would be hilarious, but I understand they're not just gonna have him be naked. And then they just gave him underwear, and I was like, brilliant. I also thought someone would address the fact that that means, I thought there was gonna be a line of dialogue. Like, you're just in your underwear. And then someone else like, does that mean you're not wearing underwear, Doctor? But I like it better that he's just got so much damn charisma that not only is it never addressed, after the action settles down, he never puts pants on. Oop, we're buffering a little bit. But we're still live. I'd like to point out, in case you missed it, he's still not wearing pants. I adore this. He just, yeah. And oh my god, this jukebox adds so much. I love that the 15th Doctor referenced the chair, because I just get the feeling he's gonna make it homely. Like, he's gonna add stuff to this TARDIS, which is what it needs. It needs that personality. And I'm moving my hands like I'm Russell T Davies in an interview trying to get you hyped. Russell. Well, welcome back. There's so much of his era in here as well. Oh my gosh, thank you. Before I forget, I said this is the one thing I specifically said I wanted from the 60th anniversary. Can I get the frame? I want the frame. Anybody? Come on, what is it? Can you guess? Can you guess? I think it's before this. Where is she? Where is she? It's before they figure it out, don't they? They take a while to mention why. Okay, screw it. They brought back American News Lady. Yes, that's how you know Russell T Davies is back. They brought back that American News anchor person, and that was the most like, oh, I actually cheered at that in my office. Like, oh, Russell T Davies is back. We've got the American News Lady. Which, if you somehow haven't realized, the entire Russell T Davies era had this same woman who did, like, the American News Network, and she's in this episode. Brilliant. Another detail I love is how 14 and 15 acted like they know each other for quite a while when they split. I mean, they've literally known each other for their entire lives, minus about 5 seconds. I mean, it makes sense, yeah. They literally are the same person. You know what I like, actually? I think this is the first time we've had 2 doctors and they haven't bickered. They've actually been incredibly supportive and, like, great friends, which, you always hear the thing. Don't get me wrong. I like kind of the vibe of the 3 doctors, and I like kind of the doctors back and forth. But when it's every time, it feels weird. Because when the multi-doctor specials comes up, it often has the comment, and they bicker. Because of course they do. Because imagine how you would be if you met a past version of yourself. I feel like I'd get on great with myself. What the hell are you talking about? I feel like I'd get on with myself better than literally anybody else. I don't feel like I would have this hidden animosity and all the things that are wrong I wish I could change, because I was that past me too. I know, for example, before I was vegan, I wanted to be, and like I know past me, and so I didn't even register till you said it that they were just buddies. Big contrast to 2 and 3 where they're very antagonistic. It's everyone. Like, the only counterexample I can think of is in Time Crash, the 10th Doctor really liked the 5th Doctor, but they still bickered. That's the joke, is they bicker about the decorative vegetable and the no Sonic and the trainers, you know? They still bicker in that. It's a little more playful, but they bicker, you know? And so I like seeing this different take. I mean, I guess the Curator and 11 didn't hate each other, but that's a little different. Moving forward, yeah, just I really like in retrospect how we've made it an anniversary. Like, it's also serving the dual purpose that all the people who skip 11 and 12 and 13 are caught up to speed as much as they need to be. You're retroactively kind of spoiling things. But yeah, the only thing about this scene I wasn't a big fan of is when Bill died. I was like, how are they going to do Bill? Because Bill is an immortal space lesbian traveling the universe. It's weird that that happens multiple times. But anyway, the Doctor doesn't know that. The Doctor never learns that Bill is an immortal space lesbian traveling the universe. But his comment is, but her consciousness lives on, which could be the Doctor knows that Bill is an immortal space lesbian traveling the universe. Or it could be the Doctor knows that Bill's consciousness is in, I almost said the Tessalestica. The, like, memory glass lady, not memoriam. It's not remembrance. Someone. Twice upon a time. What's the big glass lady called? It's the word. It's not confession. Come on, you're Doctor Who nerds. Someone. But yeah, anyway, it could be a reference to that. And I kind of like that it's ambiguous. You could take it anyway. Like, I like the knowledge that there's immortal space lesbians traveling the universe. But if you like how the Doctor get that knowledge, you could just accept it. And it's almost a pushback against a common criticism of Moffat, where he really liked killing his companions, but not really. Even before his tenure. River Song died in the library, but she's backed up. Oh, well, that's okay then. Amy died of old age. Oh, well, that's okay then. Honestly, I think that one is actually kind of okay. Clara is actually an immortal space... Well, lesbian's a little restrictive, but traveling the universe with me, personally. Oh, well, that's okay then. Maybe also a little okay. Bill Potts is honestly okay, but the Doctor doesn't know that. Actually, there's a lot of okay, but even before, just this once, Rose, everybody lives. Like, that was also Moffat. You know, let's get Russell T Davies back. We'll kill a companion. And I was gonna say they're just dead, but the only one who kind of died was Donna, and she just undied, like, 3 weeks ago. But, you know, it adds more weight. At the very least, it affects the Doctor very deeply, you know? And it almost makes it feel like the past... I probably don't even want to say how many years. But, you know, 10 plus years of the show were planned leading to this point where the Doctor sits down and rests, which of course it wasn't. It's a happy coincidence that we can kind of build this narrative, or that this narrative lines up so well, especially through the Chibnall era. But, you know, I like that we're taking these more negative things towards Chibnall, or even just the era as a whole, and building good out of it. Because Flux was an absolute disaster. But the fact that we're building something strong off Flux, we're finally establishing, you know, consequences and things that, you know, matter, they're good, is it helps kind of lift Chibnall's era up a little bit. It helps it feel more cohesive with the rest of the series, to me. Going on more. Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot to say. I'm sure I could do a proper watch through of this commentary and basically be talking through the whole thing. But even little things like the little set in here, that's a bad frame, but like the hallway with all the doors, it's just such a good production value, and it's the things that should have a good production value that they're really putting it in, not absolutely crazy bad CGI. Although the ball effect was pretty good. Other thing, the dance sequence. I enjoyed it. It's a bit of a staple. I'm not going to pretend that Power of the Doctor was the only one that did it. It was a deleted scene, but I don't remember the name of the episode. The Toclafane one. What the hell is it called? I don't remember. But the Master has a scene where he dances to, like, I Can't Decide, wheeling the doctor around. The extended version of that episode, the last one of season 3 with Martha, is dark. Like, it's might be the darkest episode of Doctor Who there is. But I can see why they cut the things they did, honestly. But yeah, I like this better than the Power of the Doctor dance scene, which should not be surprising because I learned recently the Power of the Doctor Rasputin dance scene was unscripted. Sacha Dhawan somehow got the impression that he was supposed to dance during that scene, but that wasn't in the script. The script just had the master standing there blankly, as Chris Chibnall likes to write, and Sacha Dhawan started dancing for like a solid 5-6 minutes, which presumably is the whole song, and the film crew, the director, and everyone just like let him, which is an absolutely amazing anecdote on every level. But I'll admit it does feel weird to have 4 episodes in a row where there are 2 kind of massive dance scenes, but this one is fun, you know? I even like we get a great little character bit later on, but way towards the end, where Kate is like, tell the world we're on green alert, situation normal, phone Geneva, we'll start the cleanup, also I want the names of every man we just lost. Brilliant. I loved that bit. Even just establishing that, yeah, that it wasn't just all fun and games. There were consequences. It kind of adds a darkness to this scene where you can have the fun with this scene, but still kind of realize, like, reflect later after it's done that, like, yes, this was more horrific, as opposed to the I Can't Decide scene from, oh my god, Doctor Who Takla Fane. And now I've just remembered no one's telling me what the name of that other thing is. Sound of Drums, thank you. The I Can't Decide scene in The Sound of Drums is, like, uncomfortably dark, in my opinion. It's not fun, it's like... It elevates the scene because it's uncomfortably dark, and that is what the extended version of Sound of Drums is going for. If you've never seen it, like, it has, like, Martha's family just openly talking about... There's a scene where Martha's family and I think Captain Jack, openly talk about how they're gonna murder the Master because of, like, all the horrible things he's done and made them watch, and, like, it's... God, it's dark. I think there's a deleted scene where Martha's mom holds a gun to the Master at the end. I'm pretty sure that's not in the final cut. But I think this was a good balance. Hey, look, there he's got Mr. Happy 15th Doctor. Yeah, from everything I've heard, even the bits I've seen, I think I'm gonna give a glowing review to him this Christmas. But I didn't feel I got enough. The most I got out of this Doctor is he's the kind of Doctor who can not wear pants and just, like, own it. Which isn't a whole lot to build a character off of, but it's a good start. Do not be surprised if the thumbnail for the Christmas special is just, that's the outfit I'm wearing. Anything else on here? Yeah, we've saved the day. Yada yada TARDIS. Oh yeah, is it just me, or is David Tennant actually, like, after he's regenerated, he looks kind of sickly, much more bony? Probably weird comparison, but I have a relative who's diabetic, and which way is it? Basically, when, like, your diabetes starts, I'm going to use very untechnical terms, your body basically starts, like, eating away at itself until you get medical attention. So you're very bony and scrawny, and you look horribly malnourished, basically. You look skeletal. And I kind of get those vibes when I see the David Tennant like this. Like, when he bioregenerated, those cells, like, part of the 15th Doctor basically had to steal part of the 14th Doctor's body to exist. Which is well done if it actually is intentional. I'm not even sure how you would do that unless you tell David Tennant to, like, fast, which seems harsh, but yeah, just, I can't wait to see what he does to this TARDIS. Again, we went over this end scene, it's fun. This TARDIS, just the yellow light is so much better. I hope we keep it, because, you know, the 15th Doctor's theme, as much as he doesn't have a constant outfit, he seems to have orange a lot. The, like, disco outfit, the blue one, is the only thing. Oh my goodness, how long have you not been able to see the screen? The disco outfit's the only one that's, not got some bright orange in it. In fact, he's so iconic. To my wedding, it was a costume wedding, my brother showed up as the 15th Doctor, but he was wearing glasses at the time. I can't remember why. He doesn't wear glasses. But it was so recognizable because of, like, the orange and brown suit. He's like, do you know who I am? I'm like, you're the 15th Doctor, but he doesn't wear glasses. And even, like, with, like, glasses throwing me off, I'm like, surely you're the 15th Doctor. Which he pulled off great, by the way. But, yeah, I think, God, so far this wasn't even the longest stream I've done. That still goes to Star Trek Picard. But, no, this was a great episode. I don't know if it hit, like, you know, top 10, maybe even top 20 or 30 of, like, the best episodes of Doctor Who ever, but it was a good Doctor Who story. It was a really good Doctor Who story. It was a good regeneration story, even if it is slightly off. Like, I still kind of get the sense that the 60th is almost between regenerations. Like, it's weird to go through a Doctor in 3 weeks. Must have felt a bit like this with 9, with Eccleston, when you went 1 week, I think, and then after Rose, you learned that he was going to leave after a season. I mean, even though we've technically had Tennant for, like, a year, almost exactly now, I think, it's weird, you know, the fact that it's Tennant, it's not some new guy, it's an old Doctor. But yeah, there was no previously on. I think I will do the Christmas special, probably the 26th. I have a feeling I'm going to be gone the 25th. But before we get too distracted, I do just want to pop over to Reddit and just kind of see what are people saying. Because a lot of people were very afraid of the bioregeneration. I didn't see it coming up a lot. So, he pulled it off. I think that's what we're saying. We'll just have to see, how did the casual audience take to it? Yeah, Wilf, put the gun down. Stop shooting the moles. Yeah, I probably would have just said, he's stuck in traffic. He'll be here in 2 minutes. How long is the scene? 30 seconds? All right, he'll be here in exactly 40 seconds. Yeah, I'm not seeing too much. There's not a lot of people. It's mostly small comments about things. Absolutely think biogeneration was to try and put a cap off on the 2005 to 23 era. David is still with the trauma of what happened. So I guess presumably 15 doesn't have the trauma is what we're going with. I sense I could see why they're calling the next series season 1 because Shooty won't need to deal with all that stuff unless the timeless child is raised again. That's a good point, actually. I have a feeling, we're going to basically leave behind all of that trauma, but the entire New Who era, even Jodie, like after her first season, even if it might not have been executed the best, the Doctor's been very traumatic and burdened by the Time War. You almost have this middle era is, people said Heaven Sent and Hell Bent were the conclusion of a 10-year arc that started with the destruction of Gallifrey in the Time War and ended with the Doctor finally finding Gallifrey again. Hello, General Grievous. Nice to see you again. But I almost feel now at the 60th, that's not true, is that this was the end of a 10-year arc. Not a 10-year arc. 23 was 2005, 10, 15, like an 18-year arc. and now we're gonna kind of move beyond the Time War. Would have been great if Gallifrey was around, Chibnall, but we're gonna move away from the Time War. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I think I didn't mention, really obvious, of course. Another thing that, like, Russell T. Davies is almost tongue-in-cheek, going like, yeah, I'm back, is literally including the scene where, like, the laugh and someone picks up the Master's ring. I'm pretty sure is legitimately the same hand with, like, long red nails that picked up the ring in The Sound of Drums, was it? Because, in Disney, please let me show this off, the hand literally comes from nowhere and makes no sense because we see we're at the end of the building. Please, Disney. No, Disney. Disney, why? But yeah, if you look, the hand comes from, like, off the ledge of the... It's like someone would have to be hanging off the building to grab the ring. It was tongue-in-cheek. It was fun. It does imply we're going to get a Master soon. I mean, I think we've already kind of set up the arc of the next Doctor. You know, there's the one who waits was kind of brought up. I don't think we'll get the Master. What did happen to the Master? I think I asked this last time. I genuinely don't remember what happened to the Master in Flux. But we're kind of saying Dwan's Master is dead. Good riddance. And where... That's unfair. I don't hate Dwan's Master. I just don't get why so many people love him. It might just be setting up that, like, yeah, the Master's around. We could get him eventually. Which, fair enough. I'm not going to read too much into that, but... I think the Master needs a good rest after we failed to give him a rest after Missy. And I think he needs a good reinvention, or even just going back. I'm struck when I start actively kind of comparing them, how much better I find the classic style Master. As I've said, I've listened to a lot of Big Finish, so I've even heard Masters that are not in the TV. Jeffrey Beaver's Master, which is in the TV, yes, is great. It's kind of like Big Finish's main Master. I don't know the actor's name, but like the bald guy, who's in Big Finish only, he has fun. He kind of has fun like the newer Masters, but he's still that very calculating. He's a great mix. I wouldn't mind a TV Master like him. But Derek Jacobi's War Master, best Master. I'm sorry, Missy. And I was really struck. Big Finish did a story called Masterful that had every surviving Master in it, from Jeffrey Beavers to Missy. Dewan wasn't... This was before Dewan. And it even had, like, their own Master and the Child Master, which is from an audio drama I haven't heard yet. It had Eric Roberts, and I was just struck how I didn't really like Sim or Missy. Don't get me wrong, Missy has a fantastic arc. Her solo dramas are really good. They do interesting things. But as a Master, I don't really like that more crazy thing we're leaning into. And I like John Sim when I watched him in the show. But compared to other Masters, I'm just constantly struck by how much I'd like a more sinister Master. A lot of people have pointed out that John Sim in The Doctor Falls, which is the only time we see him where he doesn't have the sound of drum in his head, is more cold and calm. He's still manic, you know, that's what his incarnation is, but it's a lot of people think it's the best one because he's closer to that classic Master. I would adore a Derek Jacobi style Master in the TV, but just a return to a colder villain who honestly might work better with what I think we're going for Ncuti Gatwa. I'd love a return, because we've had so much of this manic crazy. Give me the Master, you know. I hated the two-Doctor thing. Here we go. I'm actually glad we've got a counter opinion here, Sour Flake. I hated the two-Doctor thing. It's stupid and never been talked about, and the two TARDIS thing is also stupid. The point of Doctor Who was that there was only one TARDIS and only one left. I am going to give counterpoints, because I do disagree with you. I talked a lot about the beginning. I have pros and cons to the whole idea. I didn't bring this up before, but I will say I think it is perfectly valid to say that the bioregeneration is incredibly contrived. It's a myth. We're just learning about this now, but it's a myth, so we can derive that it is a very rare thing. I mean, it happened for apparently no reason, so we can assume it's a very rare thing that just happened, which is pretty damn convenient for the story. It's a contrivance. It's not a plot hole, it's a contrivance, but I'm happy to give you that. The two Doctor and TARDIS thing being stupid is an opinion. I have my own things I'm not particularly fond of that, but I'm okay with it. The point of Doctor Who being that there was only one TARDIS and only one Doctor, I think is just categorically wrong. The 9th and 10th Doctor, up until the introduction of the Master, yes, that was a core aspect of the show and the character, was the last of the Time Lords. Heck, for a good chunk of the first era, a core aspect of the character was that the Doctor was the last surviving member of his species. Please ignore the Master. And of course, the TARDIS was the last TARDIS until the 50th anniversary. Presumably, there were other TARDISes on Gallifrey. But we've never seen the Master with his own TARDIS in the modern era. But before then, Gallifrey was just around. We met the second Time Lord and the second TARDIS in the Meddling Monk in Season 2. It's a change. That's why I think it's more fair to say that this new thing is a new era. We're leaving the last of the Time Lord era. Like, arguably, yes, an important part of this character for most, but not all. Like, after Heaven Bent, there's just Gallifrey and TARDISes and whatnot. Heck, actually, after Heaven Bent, we see multiple TARDISes. Like, the Doctor uses one in Hell Bent. Me and Clara have one in Hell Bent. It's not in Hell Bent, sorry. Actually, yes, that is the one from Hell Bent. The 13th Doctor has, like, 2 or 3? I don't even remember. In that era. But I'll give you that, yes, a core part of the show is that the Doctor's the last of the Time Lords with the only TARDIS in the universe for most of it. But I think we're leaving that, and I think it's just wrong to say that that's core to Doctor Who as a whole, because the classic era didn't have that. Heck, Big Finish doesn't really have that. It's mostly focused on the classics. A lot of the extended media doesn't. It almost sounds like an opinion that I would hear from someone who really watched for like 9, 10, and 11, but dropped off somewhere around the Clara or the 13, so you don't have the like Gallifrey bringing back, or the fact where there just are other Time Lords and TARDISes, which I don't know what you are, Sourflake, if that's true or not for you. And if you are like a massive Doctor Who fan who's seen it all, I don't mean to detract from you. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't like it, absolutely fair enough. I think there's plenty to say you don't like. I even expressed my worry that more so for the general audience, but broadly, there'd be people who this ruins Doctor Who for you. That like the idea that you're no longer following the Doctor is an opinion I could see people having. And we are. I mean, categorically, we are no longer following the Doctor. It's just, we are also following someone else who is the Doctor. That was my complaint, is that as much as we are following the Doctor and leaving him behind. But in my head, just making the 14th Doctor eventually the curator means we've already seen where he goes, so we haven't abandoned him. And we kind of know what he's doing. I know in Big Finish, the 6th Doctor has been the curator for something. I haven't heard it, but it just works for me. As I said, worst case scenario, I don't really care. General Grievous, I really like the Giggle myself, even if I was confused about some things. It was good. It was really good. I basically have some nitpicks, and like not a lot at that. And you know, if my critiques are some nitpicks, hey, that's a plus. And I'm interested to see how the general audience takes to it, you know? What's Screen Rant gonna tell me about it? A few bits of Doctor Who news, I think. Feel free to still ask me questions about the Giggle, about 50, anything. Ask me about Star Trek, I don't care. But I also want to talk about some bits of news we got with the Celestial Toymaker animation and something else. Sourflake, well, there is another Doctor when the 10th Doctor didn't want to regenerate. True, but I acknowledge that is very different. That Doctor is off in another universe. That Doctor is half human. That Doctor is half Donna. I don't know how Rose could be happy with him. No, I'm never going to not bring that up. It's also fair to say this is a little recycled. I think it's different enough personally, but that's fair. There's precedent for more than one Doctor. Heck, you really want to get technical. In the episode that introduces K9, the 4th Doctor cloned himself in Leela. So, even that wasn't the first time that there were 2 Doctors. Those clones, if you're wondering, had a lifespan of about 30 minutes, and they seemed totally wholeheartedly unconcerned about that fact. Even though Leela's clone didn't know that she was going to be cloned. It's very awkward, classic Who. But yeah, I think we're entering we're entering a new era. We had classic Who. God, what are the jokes? I call it middle Who, and now we have Who Dis. Who on Disney Plus. What's the joke? I heard some great ones. Classic Who. I can't remember what the middle Who era is, but it was a great name. And Who Dis, which is what they are in my head. Anyways, let's position the next animated story. Actually, no, we'll do the shorter story. Because honestly, I'm only bringing this up because this is an exceptional headline. Doctor Who releases Christmas single, The Goblin Song. That's the headline. You can't hear it till the 11th, but the Christmas special has a musical, and it's called The Goblin Song. Well done. Also, I didn't mention it. Really enjoying the return of the Murray Gold music in this episode. I also realized, why the hell is this article, off to the left? Look at this. There's, space for a whole nother article here. Why is it not centered? But anyway, no, I wasn't a big fan of the last guy's music. I genuinely can't... I can kind of think of the... That's the only thing from the era that isn't the theme song I could tell you. Don't get me wrong, that's great. I like that piece of music. That's the only one. I know. And I like having Murray Gold back. I think he's more my style. I like kind of recognizing some of the pieces of music. I like that I'm going to get to know him. I can tell you Clara's theme. I can tell you Amy's theme. Of course, I Am the Doctor. Choral? What's it? Of choir. The choir pieces from the 9th and 10th Doctor especially I really love. What's the one with the lady? The ooh. I love that piece of music. The Shepherd's Boy, of course. Mwah. I've done a lot of Chef's Kiss, but I'm very happy to have Murray Gold back. And I haven't clocked off too much, but apparently he's been adding a lot of remixes. I've heard bits of Donna's theme. There was apparently a bit where he was reminiscing about some of the stuff at the past in the Wild Blue Yonder, where they played Amy and Clara's theme that I missed. But yeah, I like those. I like those bits. If you don't know, hey, speaking of Celestial Toymaker news, I want to talk a bit about this because it's Celestial Toymaker. And it's kind of controversial, and I think that's interesting. I want to add my 2 cents. Because as we've just learned in the last episode, I believe the moral of the story was that on the internet you have opinions and they're always right about everything. So, I'm going to tell you my objectively correct opinions. No. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't want to talk about my opinions. I want to talk how interesting this is. Because the animation style is new. There's no other reconstruction that has this style. And I'm just going to kind of show a representative sample. Hey, here's some good bits. It's controversial, and it's interesting, because if you look down at the comments, there are two types of people. Here's one. The one that is not my camp. The models look fantastic. I think if the facial movement were good, people wouldn't be complaining right now. I think a lot of people are also nostalgic for the Clone Wars, because this is a very Clone Wars style, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. But that's one camp. The other camp is, oh my gosh, we're actually getting to good reviews. This was all negative reviews at the top last time. It looks good. Wow. Okay. So did someone go through and delete the negative? My arms are too long. Wow. Amazing. I think someone's deleted all the negative comments, because the other ones were basically like, these people. I formally apologize to the people who made Web of Fear. You know, we're like, this looks so bad, I genuinely don't know if I could watch it. Here's another great shot. But what's interesting to me is it's one of the people who think this animation style, I have things I like and things I don't. The things I don't like are the model work. Look at these rubber people. These are the people you throw at walls and they like fall down the walls. What are these weird poses and rubbery people? The thing that works the best are the facial expressions. Look at this. That's good. The bit at the beginning where the toy maker's talking, yeah, that's good. Don't get me wrong, like, it's hardly gonna break ground, but in terms of like an animated reconstruction, yeah, this is putting the visuals to the audio we have. That's good. So I find it really interesting that if you look at the people who are complaining about it, they're mostly complaining about like the model work and stuff. And I think the backgrounds, they work pretty well. They're kind of bland, like this big white space, but I think this is actually what the room was like. I don't know if I'm a fan of that they're not making it look like the sets. I've seen the telesnaps this episode. They're going for much more surreal, especially this bit. I don't know if that's going to work. I think I might have liked a more just faithful recreation. Especially because I think there's going to be some things where it comes across as weird. Hang on, let me hide this. Because there's another picture that's not in the scene. Not in the video. This picture, where I know it's right at the end of the fourth story, actually, probably, where they have to jump along these triangles to get to the TARDIS, and the last one there wins. In the original, this is actually just, they're slightly elevated, connected to the floor. They're like a foot off the floor, but the floor is electric. And so there are lines of dialogue and demonstrations that if you stand on the floor, it'll electrocute you, and it's dangerous. So there's scenes where Steven's like, hey, Dodo, don't step on the floor, it's dangerous. That's not gonna make sense when there's no floor. So I'm almost worried they might cut around and almost it's a remake, not a restoration. But we'll see. I mean, I'm going to get it, if for nothing else, to own the Celestial Toy Maker and the telesnaps, and I'll give it a go. Heck, you know what? I might actually do a watch-along. Yeah, I think I'll do a watch-along whenever the animations come in. But, I don't know. I find it interesting that the people who like it think the model work, think the facial expressions aren't great, and the model work is where the victory is, and these weird movements I'm not a big fan of. But the people who dislike it, if there's anything they like, it's the facial expressions, it's the models, and scene that like don't work. And some of the scenery, like, I don't know. It's apparently cheaper. I was talking to my wife who knows that animation stuff. Apparently this is cheaper. I hope it's not the style we're going forward with for all of them. I'm getting slowly more used to it, but I'd be disappointed. I love that 2D style they've done for most of them. Even the Web of Fear is better than this. But apparently this is cheaper. So this might be the only way we get like Marco Polo or some of those historically difficult, the Daleks' Master Plan. And like, I guess it's better than nothing. But on the other hand, if I prefer the 2D style, having this means no one's ever going to do the 2D style. So, I don't know. We'll see. Sour Flake. I feel like the toy maker should have lived more knowing he killed the master and sealed them in his tooth, but it was still great the time he lived. I don't know. I kind of feel he served his purpose. Well, for one, Neil Patrick Harris is like a big actor. He probably would have been expensive to get a lot. I guess I wonder, how much could you do with the toy maker? Like, is a recurring villain... the biggest complaint about the classic story here is that every episode is basically the same. The companions walk into a room. Yep, don't worry, the doctor's doing something else. The companions walk into a room. There's some weird game. They figure it out. They play the game. Then they leave the room. And then the next 3 episodes are the same thing. So I worry if we had the toy maker as a recurring villain, anything like, I'm not just saying he can never show up again. I mean, Big Finish has 2 stories with him that I know of, in addition to this TV one, and they're both different enough. But I worry it'd be very samey, where visual spectacle, weird stuff happens, but it's a game in the end of the day. You know, that... And especially consecutive episodes, unless you're doing a 2-parter where it's the same story, it's just long, which, you know, this episode was over an hour. I worry about the sameness, you know? But I think he's an interesting concept. I'm not opposed to new Toymaker stuff at all. But I think he's an every now and then villain, you know? And we're probably going to get a lot of new villains this coming up seasons. 2 Doctors and 2 TARDISes, that's crazy. Yeah, we'll probably get a lot of new Doctors, because Davies has been talking about how the Daleks need a good rest. Hopefully the the theory that we're contractually obliged to have the Daleks every season is finally going to be put to rest. But I don't know, it didn't work too well when Chibnall tried it, but that's because none of Chibnall's villains were memorable. I don't know, does Moffat have many memorable villains? I mean, the Slovene were kind of big. I don't know if they're necessarily memorable for good reasons. I'm trying to think of ones that aren't Moffat. But, you know what? You know what I'm here for is a good story. Like, if I never see the Daleks for 10 years, I'm gonna probably notice at some point, hey, it's been a while, it's weird, we've never seen the Daleks. I'm also probably not really gonna care if they're telling good stories. There are plenty of times in the classic series where the Daleks take a big break, especially when I watched it, when like half or like 3/4 of the episodes that have hence been animated weren't animated. You know, and I've not really cared. The Cybermen disappear for like 3 Doctors or something crazy. Sucks the 9th Doctor only had 1 season. He was a great Doctor. He's a Doctor that I've seen series 1 a lot, and I've never really felt I clicked with the Doctor because he was there for so little time. For my first like several rewatches, maybe 5. He was one that never really felt like the Doctor, just purely because of time. I didn't get to know him enough. Eventually, I guess I got more used to him because I'd seen this series so much. I was like, okay, I can see it. I can see what makes his Doctor good. And like, the last watch there were 2, I went, okay, yes, he's very good. He's a great Doctor. And I absolutely would not have minded more with him. Like, he took a long time to kind of get in my head as, like, one of the Doctors. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, he has a good season. Tennant's got a good season after him, you know? I've listened to a lot of his Big Finish stuff. Honestly, it's a little generic, I think, the stuff I've heard. I kind of wish they'd give him more substantial of a story than just kind of like a normally Doctor Who adventure. Some of them are good. He meets the Brigadier. I like that one, where he meets the Brigadier. That one was fun. But yeah, no, he's one that it took me a while to really see how good he was. And maybe part of that was just age. I don't know. Because I was quite young. I wasn't 5 years old, like when his tenure happened. But I was quite young. Do you know that when the Cybermen conversion happened, you could see the Ninth Doctor being converted? What do you mean? I don't know of this. Can you be more specific? Doctor Who, Ninth Doctor, Cyberman? Oh yeah, he's got a Cyberman story, doesn't he? I remember that one. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad, the Ninth Doctor's Big Finish. It just feels a little generic. It kind of feels like it's being sold just on having Christopher Eccleston. I don't know. I'm sure he wouldn't have cameoed. Like, he still hasn't returned to Doctor Who. Like, he and the BBC certainly did not get along then. He had a Cyberman thing as his ear. I'm gonna have to look at what you're talking about, because I'm sure Christopher Eccleston would not have gone. Certainly for that. Just how he felt about the BBC at the time, and even, like, still feels. But, yeah. I think, though, we're probably coming to the natural end of the stream. As I said, I will be back on probably the 26th. Subscribe, you'll see it. There should be at least a day's warning of when, like, the live stream goes up, where it's like, coming soon. Or the community tab I posted in. I will probably continue TOS. Yeah, the 10th Doctor season, because that's the first that has the Cybermen. I will probably continue the TOS watch through for the next 2 weeks before Christmas. I think we're on Charlie X and Balance of Terror, which should be a popular one. But I think I'd like to get Doctor Who in here. I just have to work out how to do it. I might go like alternate weeks, but the problem with Doctor Who is the classics are really long to do as watch-alongs. I could do once a week or 2 a week. Goodbye, Sourflake. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking around, even though like we disagreed on the regeneration thing. Very often my audience shares my opinions, and so it can be kind of hard to get the other side. But I really like having it. I really like when the discussions come through to be like, from the different point of view. Yes, the point of view I agree with, but also the different point of view I think is really valuable. But yeah, the problem with reviewing Doctor Who is the classic ones. First off, a lot of people just flat out don't have access. But setting that aside, it's long, to review. I don't think I'd do a whole story, and I think one episode isn't enough. I think I'm too small where not a lot of people would show up. The classics aren't a great one. The TV movie I could do, but it's really weird to start at the 8th Doctor. And then the 9th and almost all the 10th Doctor stuff. Depending on how you're watching it, it's different lengths. Because of complicated video encoding things between the UK and the US that I won't get into now, the American version of Doctor Who, at least on the disc, is like slightly faster. It is sped up by like 3 or 4%, I think. Not enough to notice, but enough to where in a watch along we will lose sync over time. And so I can't really start at 9 because it's not all on like Disney Plus. There are a lot of places in the world that don't have that except on Blu-ray. And as an American, the UK audience is probably the biggest for Doctor Who anyway, and I'm watching the American versions because I have them on physical media. And almost worth buying like that collection for the 5-ish Doctors reboot. And like the non-sped up versions alone was like $120 that they just released on Blu-ray. Honestly, I might pay it for the 5-ish Doctors alone, but it's only like the 11th Doctor I could really start at, but it feels weird to jump in at 11. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a go, but I'll give it a try. I mean, I might even just see what the difference is between, like, the time difference. Maybe it's enough or it wouldn't really matter, but we'll see. And I will, of course, be back for Season 1, Season 14, whatever you want to call it, whenever that is. But we'll see. I also want to get some of my other videos up, not live streams. And yeah, you can wait for the Toy Maker, you know, that I'll probably do a watch-along of these animations as they come out. But yeah, I think then, still probably not the longest stream. I think I had some Picard ones that capped 2 hours. But yes, I would like to say thank you all for joining. It has been wonderful. I genuinely didn't know if I would have an audience at all. So it's great that for all 3 of these, I've not only had people, but I've had repeats. It's really good to see. Don't worry, we won't be abandoning Doctor Who just because the shows aren't off, but I hope I can see a bunch of you back for Christmas, for the special. But yes, I will now say, the next Doctor stream should maybe be about times the Doctor almost died or something you talk about. I think talking stuff might want to be more videos. I want to do a Doctor Who video. I'm just not sure what I want it to be. Maybe I could address, like, regeneration limits after the Timeless Child, because there's a lot I think people get wrong. But we'll see. There's a Star Trek one I want to do about the Universal Translator. But yeah, Sourflake stream, it will probably be the 26th. I'm Pacific Standard Time. I think that's still the 26th if you're in Europe. But yeah, I'm American West Coast. I doubt it'll be Christmas Day because I'll be busy. My wife might join me for that one. I think we're going to start watching them together for this new era. But yeah, I'll be back for Christmas, don't you worry. And if you're into Star Trek, I do those as well. Not that we're going to have a new Star Trek for quite some time. But yes, well, as I said, I'm doing the old episodes. We've been going through TOS, so I do watch-alongs, not reviews. So it's basically an audio commentary track I do live. So yeah, if you want to come and join for that, and stick around, because I genuinely think maybe after Christmas, because there's only like 2 weeks till Christmas, I might try and figure out how I want to get Doctor Who in there. Might even do Saturday, Sunday thing, but like Doctor Who's occasional, because I don't want my whole weekend to be taken up by these. But we'll see. I've got plans. But more Doctor Who, more Star Trek. Never seen Star Trek. Well, there you go. If you want, there's something you could you could get through. We're doing the old TOS stuff, but we'll see. Anyways, I will say thank you all for watching. I will wrap it up. And I will see you next time. Where's my end stream button? I always forget. I'll see you next time.